Hello and welcome. It's Frances here. Thank you for coming back to my channel. If this is your first time here, I bid thee welcome. There is a subscribe button and a bell below if you want to help support this channel by subscribing to it. And when you click on the bell, you'll be notified as to when I upload more content. I'm coming to you from Ghana country. As such, I acknowledge the Ghana people of the Adelaide Plains as being the traditional custodians of this land. I don't know if I'm the only one at the moment. Maybe I am doing typical Aries things, burning my candle at both ends, but it's also eclipse season. So I just thought I'll just do this video on tiredness. If you are feeling tired, just body tired, and it's not from lack of sleep, or maybe it is, have noticed a disruption in your sleeping patterns as well. So I don't know, maybe I'm just the only one, but feeling almost emotionally, energetically wiped out. And what gets me personally through these moments, I'm just looking at my hair going, I should brush it in the mornings. When I find myself going through these cycles, it is, this is a cycle. So it is important to keep in mind that these things are cyclic. We all go through periods of feeling high energy, and then we all go through periods when we tend to be a little bit more sensitive. And depending on where you are at, and there's lots of factors to this, you may find you're more sensitive around full moons or even dark moons, new moons. It could be at certain times of the year as well. So we are all individuals, and it's just coming back to knowing yourself. What is normal for you and not necessarily normal for everybody else. And yes, acknowledging that there will be times, especially as our life tends to get more and more busy. And if you've been watching some of the astrological inputs that I've done or gone onto the actual astrologist page who I refer to, you will be aware that energetically, cosmically, we are going through a big shift, especially in relation to Uranus, who had moved into Aquarius, and I think has just retrograde back with it, Pluto. I think it's Pluto, actually. Pluto's just moved into Aquarius, and it's one of these outlying planets anyway. I think it's Pluto. And has just retrograde back into Capricorn, and it's going to be popping back into Aquarius within the next couple of months. So cosmically, if you more that you walk the spiritual path, more you are going to be open to other energetics in the cosmos. I have mentioned in other videos, there's this concept from Hermetics, which is as below, as within, so without, as above, so below, in that what we feel inside, it's sort of an incarnation. Our microcosm is a reflection of the macrocosm, what's out there eternally, and vice versa. The two interplay as the energies weave in between our own existence, our own embodiment, and that of cosmos. And you may actually hear or have started to hear the word embodiment becoming more and more frequently used these days, because this is a whole really, doesn't make sense. This is a really important aspect that we need to get back in touch with our bodies as physical shell, and in doing that we get back in touch with our emotions. And having these feelings of burnout, tiredness could actually be an indication that we need to pull back on our boundaries. We need to practice a little bit more self-care, take time out a little bit more often, and even simple, if you've got a family, do this with the family. Get out in nature, go for a bushwalk, go for a walk along the beach, or somewhere, even just to your local park, somewhere where you are out of the sort of man-made structure and back into nature. Again, this is something that's coming into my conscious awareness more and more is science. It's almost like science and these wellness experts are tapping into something that those of us who are more esoterically inclined have known forever, that nature is the greatest healer of all. We need to come back to Mother Earth. Added to that, this is an aside, there is a lot of electromagnetic shifts in the frequency happening. So understanding, and I have mentioned this in other videos of my channel, we are energetic beings, which means that, like all energy, there is an internal flux and ebbing and flowing nature. And cosmically, this happens like with our biggest star, the sun, having solar flares. That can actually affect us, even if we're not consciously aware of that. As I said, we've got seasonal changes. We have cosmic changes with planets pinging off each other. And it's by getting your astrological chart, your birth chart done. You can do it online or go to an astrologer. It's getting more and more important because these help not necessarily prepare us, but guide us through all these shifts. And then added to all that, we've got the news of what us humans are doing all around the world. Maybe the less percent of that, the better. So it is important, probably more so than any other time, to come back to body awareness, this embodiment that's happening. Creating our own microcosm that feels safe and looking after that, because again, as I said, this affects our microcosm, our external world. Taking the breaks that our body, our own energy, resources so desperately needs. So that could be going to bed earlier, if that is something that is applicable for you, or you're able to do. It could be getting off social media, not scrolling until 10, 11, and 12 o'clock at night, having a limit, putting boundaries around ourselves as to when we'll actually go on social media, maybe sort of listening it to a couple of times a week. Is it really that important? Especially if you have noticed that your feeds may be getting more and more draining or negative, or when you get off the phone or the tablet or whatever you're watching, it's really, excuse me, beginning to affect your own energetics. It's sort of getting you angry or sad. It's sort of like indications that we need to come back to our body. We need to really take responsibility as to what we allow into our own energetics. It could be that you actually need to take a physical holiday or a work break, or not do everything on the weekend, spend some time out in the garden. Like I said, simple little things depending on your situation and your needs. If you have a very full life, you might need to have to learn how to say no. And we're not talking about an extended period of time, but you might need to really enforce on your boundaries for a month, a week, and have people realize that in order for you to be there for them, you need to be in a place of resilience yourself. Also, if you're feeling tired all the time, it could actually be dietary. There's so much in our food these days, in our environment, in our waterways. And also, as we get older and we go through all these changes, our whole body structure changes as well. So have a look at what you're eating. Are you eating enough fresh fruit and vegetables? Are you doing enough exercise? Are you getting away from your computer and getting up and doing some exercise? I know, personally, I'm guilty of that. I've been really busy doing a new website and also having a conference, that I've been spending a lot of time online, basically coming home from work and sitting on my laptop. And even that energetics from the laptop itself, from the device, affects our energetics. We need a break from it. You may also be feeling tired of the world. And I guess me, that's quite natural, because I look at what's happening in the world and I'm tired. I'm tired of everything just going around the same cycles. We're getting the same sort of head backing against the wall. We've got the same people raising issues and nothing being done about it. I'm tired of that. It's like someone tries to move us forward and everybody complains. There's a lot of the what ifs. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, because there's so much underlying stuff, hidden stuff that's bubbling away under the surface. And this is, thank you, Pluto or Uranus, is revealing all that, realizing that what we have been told wasn't actually the truth, or there was an alternative motive behind it. And that makes me personally tired. It's just like being in areas we have a very strong sense of justice and truth, and being led down the garden path just makes me tired. So I need to physically give myself a break, take time out, do something that gives me pleasure. And I am fortunate, I do have a garden, even though it's full of weeds at the moment. I can de-stress in there. Or put on a video, DVD, or something on Netflix, something that gives me pleasure. Go for a walk, get some fresh air. But it's not just us. It's not just the individual. Our whole world is going through huge changes. The whole human race really is in a process, in a position of change, whether we realize that or not. And if you are more spiritually orientated, and you have been for a while, this could lead to a degree of frustration. That's when is everybody else going to realize? But we can't affect or make people realize. We have to allow them to walk their own path. But what we do have control over is us. Is getting, frustrated about things which are out of our control benefit for us? No, it just adds to our own spiraling energetics. So we can't change our external world. What we can change is our internal world, and this is our microcosm. We can't change the macrocosm by ourselves. We can change our microcosm, and I have used this analogy before. And when we change our inner world and we become that pebble that then gets thrown into the pond, if it's the microcosm, our splash can then ripple out and affect other people if they're open to it. So what can we do in order to changing our microcosm? Take more ownership on what we allow ourselves to listen to, we allow ourselves to hear, television, movies, friends, social media engagements. Take ownership of what energies we actually allow into our own energetic field, our own aura. And then taking note of how these affect us. Taking ownership, or becoming more aware and being more responsible of what we actually allow ourselves to take on board, both consciously and unconsciously. Again, all these sort of interweave. So it's all about really taking back our power, because so often we give ourselves away. And I don't think it's just a female thing, a woman's thing. I think we all do it. All humans, we do that. We like to help, but sometimes we help so much to the detriment of ourselves. And this comes back to what's termed as our authentic sovereignty. And it can be hard, especially if we have been a person who's been giving all of our life, to then turn around and say, no, speak to the hand. It's not okay at this present point in time with me. And that can not necessarily upset people, it might upset a few people, but they might be taken back because you've always been there for them. You've always been giving. Oh, If you're a nice person, you would do this. Well, in order for me to be a nice person to do this for you, I have to take time out for me. And while I'm taking time out for me, maybe you will find ways of doing that thing for yourself. And that being told that if you're a nice person is a form of emotional blackmail, is, I wouldn't say underpinning of toxic relationships, but there isn't this ebb and flow of give and take. Have a think about that. And then have a look at your relationships with your nearest and dearest, your close friends. Are you the one who's always there and no one's there for you? Or is it this ebbing and flowing? Because if you are the one who's constantly giving, constantly sacrificing, you are giving away your power. You're not actually helping. You are actually giving away your power. So you need to take it back. You need to step back into your authentic sovereignty. And not everybody's going to like that, especially at first, and especially if they've been taken advantage of it. However, they may not have been aware that they've been taking advantage of it. So they've got to be a bit more mindful as well. Okay. There is so much happening. And if your energetics are all over the place, and again, these are cycles, they come and go like that. The overwhelm can actually be too much. And therefore, yeah, we need to find ways of putting things in place that will enable us to cope better. We can't always hide into a cave. That would be nice to do so. But we need to look at ways that will actually give us that breathing space. And also allow ourselves, I think that's the next thing, is like give ourselves permission. And it's pretty sad when we have to remind ourselves to give ourselves permission that we can, and we need to take that breathing space, take time out, so to speak. That we also need to recharge along with everybody else, but we all need to do that if other people are reliant on us. And just taking time out doesn't mean that we're walking away. It means we need time out to recharge, get our energies more in alignment, get this head all worked out before we can engage again. But then we might realize that there are situations where we do need to walk away. It's not our circus, not our monkeys, so to speak. We are, after all important parts of the cosmic plan. Regardless of what that is, we may not be aware of it. Ebbs and flows, like all other energy around it. There is actually a divine reason why we are here. In order to help other people, we need to also spend time on our own selves, which reminds me of that old axiom, heal thyself. Okay, that may have related to medical, but it can also relate to self-care as well. There is a reason why we are here, and our reason is to tap into what that divine gift is. And we can't do that when we are being distracted, running around everybody else, looking after everybody else, taking on everybody else's needs and wants and desires. We need to say, hey, I am also a spiritual being. I also need to figure stuff out for me. So if this sounds a little bit new agey for you, just think. Just sort of like put those preconceptions to the side and just think about it. We are here for a purpose. Why would we be born? Coming back to the old age questions of what's the meaning of life? What's the meaning of our life? We're here. There's a reason why our soul chose to incarnate, and chose to incarnate when it did, and for us to be this age that we are now. Not 10 years ago, not 10 years in the future, now. And it could be one of the unanswerable questions. It could be the great historic part that keeps us thinking and querying and questioning. But it's through that searching that we understand things that maybe we would not have originally been aware of. What if there is no meaning to life? What if we are here just to go through the motions? If that's the case, why do we then have a consciousness? Why have humans from the dawn of time, well, maybe the last 5,000 years, queried the purpose of our own existence? If there is nothing out there, if there is no meaning of life. When we feel the need to pull back from the world, that could be an indication, a lesson, a teaching about balance. Bring more balance into our life, of realizing that we need space for us to grow or for things to integrate, for this change to emerge, or even the simple realization that we cannot do everything all of the time. And there are times where we just have to be in the present moment. And that being could be sitting on the couch with a cup of tea, reading a book, taking time out, taking a chill pill, digging in the garden, going for a walk around the garden, around the neighborhood. These are all forms of self-care. We can't really worry and care and carry everyone, the planet, the whole cosmos, every single moment of our lives, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 60 minutes in a day. We need to take time out for us every now and then. However, we're in this Western society that tells us that tiredness is wrong. Soldier through. I disagree, because self-care is important. However, if our tiredness isn't being fixed by taking time out, there may be also a medical reason. So much is happening. I did sort of touch on this a little bit earlier when it comes to dietary needs. So if you're feeling fatigued, and there is a difference between feeling tired and feeling fatigued, and for no apparent reason, well, then it might be worthwhile taking a visit to your medical professional, herbalist, naturopath, just to make sure that there is not an underlying health concern as well. And when you realize that you do need to have a break, even if it means unplugging, decide on what is important for you to do that, not how it can fit into other people's schedules. And it's coming back to what I mentioned before, that R word, responsibility, self-responsibility. When we create more self-care in our own lives, we're actually creating more space, clearing all this head stuff out. And through clearing this out and creating more space, we are then able to give more, and give more efficiently, more effectively than what we may have been given before. There's no point being present if, say, our best friend's going through a huge emotional upset in their lives, and being there if we're not there. Do you know what I mean? If our mind is somewhere else, if all we can think about is stuff that's happening in our lives or how tired we are, we're not then being present for them. So we need to look after ourselves and take self-care and reassess those boundaries, so then we can be more available, more presently available, more energetically available for those who actually need us. And we also need to allow people to do the same for us. When we give ourselves that time, we can then also appreciate and allow time for all those positive things, the things that bring us joy. It could be watching a documentary about wildlife, or seeing early spring flowers, or something just as you walk around the neighborhood. Allowing those good things come into our lives. So self-care is not a luxury. It is an essential part of being human. And especially as we are going through all these upheavals, energetically, cosmically, planetary, it's very much necessity for us to be able to then be more present for those around us. So allow yourself some self-care. Step away from the computer, get off your phone, go for a walk around the neighborhood, go and sit on the grass, go down to the beach, get out a book, have a cup of tea, listen to the birds, breathe. Blessing.